Picture this. You cooked all afternoon, and it still doesn't taste like hers. The sauce too thin, the meat gray instead of golden, something missing you can't name. Here's the thing. The Italian grandmothers who fed 8 people on the wages of 1 kept a whole box of small, clever kitchen tricks they never wrote down, and nearly everyone fixes exactly that. Today we're counting down 31 of the cleverest Italian Nonna kitchen tricks that actually work. And stay till number 1, because it's a little ice cube trick that looks like a magic show and rescues any greasy sauce in seconds. By the time we get there, the way you cook is going to change. Let's get into it. Number 31. Before anything else goes in the pot, fry your tomato paste until it turns brick red. Most people squeeze it straight from the tube into the sauce, and that's why their sauce carries a flat, tinny, slightly bitter taste underneath everything. A Nonna knew better. She'd push the sofrito aside, drop the paste into the hot spot in the pan, and cook it for 2 or 3 full minutes until it darkened from bright red to deep brick and started to caramelize. That toasting cooks off the raw, canned edge and wakes up a deep, sweet, roasted tomato flavor you cannot get any other way. 2 minutes. That's the whole difference, and it sets up the next one perfectly. Number 30. When you drain the pasta, do not pour that cloudy water down the sink. That murky water is full of starch, the yum. Pasta let go of, and that starch is the invisible glue that turns a slick of oil and tomato into a glossy sauce that hugs every noodle. A Nonna would dip a mug into the pot right before draining, every single time. Then a splash goes into the sauce, a hard swirl, and suddenly it's silky instead of watery. Keep back half a cup. Watch a broken, oily sauce come together like magic. But saving the water is only half of it. The next trick is where the real restaurant secret lives. If bringing these old kitchen secrets back to life sounds good to you, do me a favor and subscribe. We're bringing back the tricks Nonna never wrote down. Number 29. Never plate your pasta and spoon sauce on top. Cook them together in the pan for the last minute. This one move is the line between home cooking and restaurant cooking. A Nonna would pull the pasta out a minute early, still with a bite, and drop it right into the simmering sauce with a splash of that starchy water, tossing hard. The pasta finishes cooking inside the sauce and drinks it up instead of just wearing it. The Italians call it mantecatura. She just called it doing it properly. And speaking of doing it properly, the next trick makes a fresh tomato sauce in the time it takes the water to boil. Number 28. Out of passata? Grate a raw tomato and you've made it in 1 minute with no peeling at all. Here's the clever part. A Nonna would cut a ripe tomato in half, press the cut side against the big holes of a box grater, and grate. The soft flesh melts through into a smooth, fresh puree, and the flat skin stays behind flat in her hand. The grater peels it for you. A little olive oil, garlic, a pinch of salt, and that's a fresh sauce faster than the pasta cooks. Watch the skin come off clean in your fingers. Now, the next one is the trick behind every creamy risotto you've ever envied. Number 27. For risotto that tastes like a restaurant, toast the dry rice before a single drop of liquid. Most people dump the rice and broth in together and wonder why it turns to mush. A Nonna would stir the raw rice into the hot sofrito for a minute or 2 first, until the grains looked glassy at the edges and smelled faintly of toast. That quick toasting seals each grain so it lets go of its starch slowly and stays creamy instead of gluey. Then the warm broth goes in, 1 ladle at a time. A tiny step, a huge difference. And here's another tiny thing she never threw away. Number 26. Never bin the hard rind of your Parmesan. Drop it in the pot. That waxy end you were about to toss is pure concentrated flavor, and a Nonna hoarded them like little coins. She kept a bag of rinds in the freezer, and any time a soup, a sauce, or a pot of beans was going, in went a rind. As it simmers, it softens and releases a deep, savory richness, the thing we now call umami, that makes the whole pot taste like it cooked all day. Fish it out at the end, or eat the soft, chewy piece yourself. The next trick is the sneakiest way she ever added garlic. Number 25. For a salad with just a whisper of garlic, don't chop it, rub the bowl. Raw minced garlic can hijack a delicate salad and sit on your breath all night. A Nonna's fix was elegant. She'd cut a clove in half and rub the cut face all around the inside of the wooden salad bowl before the greens ever went in. What's left is a ghost of garlic, a perfume, not a punch, then oil, a little vinegar, salt, and toss. It tastes like it came from a restaurant. Now, the next one solves the most annoying problem in your fruit bowl. Number 24. Got hard, pale tomatoes that refuse to ripen? Shut them in a paper bag with one apple overnight. This looks like a magic trick, and it's really just quiet chemistry. Apples give off a natural gas called ethylene as they sit, and ethylene is the exact signal that tells fruit to ripen. Close a few stubborn tomatoes in a paper bag with a single apple, leave it on the counter a day or two, and they soften and sweeten right up. A Nonna never heard the word ethylene. She just knew the apple hurried them along. The next one will change where you keep your basil forever. Number 23. Stop putting your fresh basil in the fridge. It belongs on the counter, in water. Cold is basil's enemy. One night in the refrigerator, and the leaves turn black, slimy, and useless. A Nonna treated a bunch of basil like a bouquet of flowers. She'd snip the stems and stand them in a small glass of water, right on the counter, out of the sun. It stays bright green and fragrant for days and perfumes the whole kitchen while it waits. Such a small change, and you'll never lose a bunch again. But the next trick might be the most Italian one of all. Number 22. In the poorest kitchens, the topping on the pasta wasn't cheese. It was toasted breadcrumbs, and it's delicious. Down south they called it pangrattato, the poor man's parmesan. A Nonna, with no money for cheese, would toast stale breadcrumbs in a little olive oil with a clove of garlic until golden and crunchy, then shower them over the pasta. You get salt, crunch, and a nutty richness that honestly rivals cheese for the price of yesterday's bread. Try it once, and you'll do it on purpose. The next trick fixes the vegetable everyone cooks wrong. Number 21. If your eggplant comes out bitter and greasy, salt it first and let it weep. Cut the eggplant, lay it out, and salt it generously. Come back in 30 minutes, and you'll see beads of water sitting right on the surface. The salt is drawing out the excess moisture and the old bitterness with it. Pat the pieces dry, and now they brown instead of sog, and they soak up a fraction of the oil. A Nonna did this without a thought. It's the whole difference between greasy, bitter eggplant and eggplant that's silky and sweet. And the next one saves a sauce you thought was ruined. Number 20. If your tomato sauce tastes sharp and sour, don't add salt. Add a pinch of sugar or a grated carrot. Canned tomatoes especially carry an acid bite that scratches at the back of your throat. A Nonna's fix wasn't fancy, a small pinch of sugar stirred in near the end, or a whole carrot grated into the pot to melt away, rounds off that sharpness and lets the deep tomato sweetness come forward. You'd never taste sugar or carrot, you'd only notice the biting is gone. Balance, always balance. Now, the next trick is a baking secret hiding in your freezer. Number 19. For pastry and crust that shatters into flakes, grate your butter in frozen and cold. Warm, soft butter melts into the flour and gives you a dense, tough crust. A Nonna kept the fat cold on purpose. She'd freeze a stick of butter and grate it into the flour on the big holes, so it stayed in tiny cold shreds. In the oven, those cold bits of butter burst into steam and blow the dough apart into hundreds of flaky layers. Cold fat, hot oven, flaky pastry, every time. And the next one is the rescue that saves dinner when you've oversalted. Number 18. Salted the soup too much? Don't panic. Drop in a whole raw potato. It happens to everyone, even her. When a pot went too salty, a Nonna would peel a raw potato, cut it into big chunks, and let it simmer in there 15 or 20 minutes. The potato quietly drinks up some of that salty liquid as it cooks. Fish the chunks out before serving, and the whole pot is softened, saved. A too salty pot is almost never ruined. It's just waiting to be rescued. And the next trick rescues something even scarier, a sauce that's split right in front of you. Number 17. If your sauce ever breaks and goes oily and separated, bring it back with a splash of pasta water. It looks ruined, that greasy slick floating on top. It isn't. A Nonna would pull the pan off the heat, add a little of that starchy pasta water, and whisk hard. The starch grabs the oil and the liquid and pulls them back into one smooth sauce. A cold pat of butter whisked in does the same magic. So next time a sauce splits, breathe, splash, swirl. Almost nothing in her kitchen was ever truly beyond saving. Now, the next one is the reason your gnocchi turned to glue. Number 16. If your homemade gnocchi come out gummy and heavy, the problem is that you're working the dough too much. Potato has a lot of starch, and the more you knead it, the more that starch turns the dough gluey and dense. A Nonna handled the potato as little as humanly possible. She'd rice the cooked potato while warm, add the flour, and bring it together in just a few gentle folds. No kneading, stop the second it holds. Light hands, light gnocchi, overwork it and you've made paste. The next trick is the easiest way to peel a tomato you'll ever see. If your own Nonna is smiling in your memory right now, subscribe and cook along with us. The best tricks are still coming. Number 15. To peel tomatoes the way she did, give them 30 seconds in boiling water. Fighting a raw tomato with a knife is a losing game. A Nonna's way was effortless. Cut a small X in the bottom of each tomato, drop them in boiling water for about 30 seconds, then scoop them straight into a bowl of ice water. The heat loosens the skin, the cold shock stops the cooking, and the peel slides off in your fingers like a jacket. Half a minute, and you've got clean, skinless tomatoes for a proper sauce. But the next one is about a cheese you've been ruining in the fridge. Number 14. Take your mozzarella out of the fridge and let it sit in its water before you eat it. Cold flattens flavor. Straight from the refrigerator, mozzarella is rubbery and tastes like almost nothing. A Nonna would set it out, still in its own liquid so it wouldn't dry, and let it come up to room temperature for half an hour before it hit the plate. Warm, it turns soft and milky and sweet, a completely different cheese. Never eat good mozzarella cold. And keeping cheese right is exactly what the next trick is about. Number 13. After you brown meat, do not wash that pan, deglaze it. Those brown, sticky bits stuck to the bottom look like a mess to scrub away. To a Nonna, they were the beginning of the sauce. She'd pour in a splash of wine or broth while the pan was still hot, and scrape all those bits loose with a wooden spoon. They dissolve into the liquid and become an instant, deeply savory sauce with a flavor you cannot buy in a jar. That mess is pure concentrated flavor. Lift it up, don't rinse it away. The next trick is how she made good cheese last for weeks. Number 12. Stop wrapping your good cheese in plastic. Use paper. Cheese needs to breathe. Sealed tight in plastic, it sweats. Then it goes slimy or grows off flavors. A Nona would wrap a wedge in parchment or wax paper, which lets a little air move while still keeping it from drying out. Tuck that into a loose bag in the fridge, and it stays clean and firm far longer. A tiny change, and your Parmesan and Pecorino reward you by lasting weeks instead of days. Now, the next one is the smartest way to never waste a herb again. Number 11. Freeze your leftover herbs and sofrito in olive oil in an ice cube tray. This is next-level Nonna thrift, and it's a gift to your future self. When the basil or parsley is about to turn, or you've made extra sofrito, spoon it into an ice cube tray, cover it with olive oil, and freeze. You end up with little flavor bombs you drop straight into a hot pan any night of the week. Because they're frozen, they keep for months, and you've saved what would have been thrown out. Nothing wasted, ever. And the next trick is about the ingredient people burn the most. Number 10. Start your garlic in cold oil, over low heat. Never toss it into a screaming hot pan. Garlic goes from golden and sweet to black and bitter in about 10 seconds, and once it's burnt, the whole dish is ruined. Nonna would put the garlic into the oil before the pan was even hot, so they warmed up together, slowly, until it turned pale gold and perfumed the kitchen, low and slow. Patience with garlic pays you back with sweetness. Rush it, and you'll taste the mistake in every bite. And patience is exactly what the next trick is about, too. Number 9. When you cook dried beans, salt them only at the very end. If your beans come out tough or with split, papery skins, this is almost always why. Salt, added early, toughens the skins before the inside can soften. A Nonna cooked dried beans low and slow in plain water, with a clove of garlic and a sage leaf, and salted them only once they were already tender, right near the finish. A good drizzle of olive oil at the end, and they come out creamy, whole, and worlds better than any can. Salt last, remember that. Now the next one is the secret hiding in a real bolognese. Number 8. The secret to a silky, tender ragu is a splash of milk. Yes, milk. This is the one that makes people stop and stare. In a true bolognese, a Nonna would pour a small cupful of whole milk into the browned meat and let it simmer until it had almost cooked away before the wine and the tomato ever arrived. The milk gently tenderizes the meat and softens the sharp edge of the tomato that comes later, leaving the whole sauce rounder, silkier, and creamier than you'd believe from so little. It sounds wrong. It's the actual traditional method, and you can taste the difference. The next trick sounds even more like a myth, and it works. Number 7. To stop a pot from boiling over, lay a wooden spoon flat across the top. It looks like an old wives' tale, and it genuinely works. When starchy pasta or rice water climbs into a foaming dome, the dry, water-repelling wood of the spoon bursts the bubbles the moment they touch it, and the foam collapses back down. A Nonna always had a wooden spoon resting across her pot. No more cleaning starchy. Water off the stove. Watch the foam hit the spoon and fall. Such a simple thing. The next trick decides whether your meat is golden or gray. Number 6. For a deep golden crust on your meat, take it out of the fridge early and dry it completely first. Cold, wet meat is the enemy of a good sear. Straight from the fridge, the surface is damp and the middle is icy, so it just steams in its own moisture and turns gray. A Nonna would set the meat out 20 or 30 minutes ahead to lose the chill, then pat it bone dry with a cloth right before it hit the hot pan. A dry surface is what browns. Browning is flavor. Dry meat, hot pan, don't crowd it. And the next one is the patience most people skip. Number 5. Whenever you make dough, let it rest before you roll it. Skip this, and the dough shrinks back, tears, and fights you the whole way. When you need, you build up the gluten, and fresh gluten is tight and springy, snapping back like a rubber band. A Nonna would knead her pasta or bread dough, cover it, and simply walk away for 30 minutes. In that quiet time, the gluten relaxes, and the dough rolls out thin and smooth and stays where she put it. The dough didn't get lazy, it got calm. And the next trick is one more way she wasted absolutely nothing. Number 4. Don't throw out the dry, hard heels of your cheese. Simmer them right into the sauce. We talked about the Parmesan rind, but a Nonna did the same with any little end of hard cheese too dry to grate. Into a simmering sauce or soup it went, where the gentle heat slowly melts it down until it disappears completely, leaving nothing behind but richness. Not a scrap wasted, and the sauce is better for it. In her kitchen, the pieces everyone else throws away were exactly where the flavor was hiding. Now, the next trick is the one professional chefs use and home cooks always forget. Number 3. If a dish tastes flat and finished but somehow boring, it's not missing salt, it's missing acid. This is the secret that restaurant kitchens live by. When a soup or a sauce or a pan of greens tastes dull, a Nonna wouldn't reach for more salt. She'd finish it with a few drops of lemon or a splash of good vinegar, stirred in off the heat at the very end. It doesn't make the food sour. It lifts everything and wakes all the other flavors up. A pinch of salt and a drop of acid. That's the whole art of the last taste. And the next one fed the whole family for a week. Number 2. Cook once, eat all. Week. Put up one giant Sunday shugo. To a Nonna, this wasn't a recipe, it was how you ran a house. On Sunday, she'd start one enormous pot of tomato sauce, often with a few pieces of meat tucked in to simmer for hours, until everything went tender and the whole house smelled like Sunday. That one pot became pasta that night, then the base for 3 or 4 different dinners through the week, and whatever was left went into tubs in the freezer. One afternoon of work, days of meals. That's not just cooking, that's wisdom. And now, the number 1 trick, the one that looks like a magic show. Number 1, if your sauce or soup comes out greasy, drop a single ice cube in and lift the fat right out. This is the one that makes people gasp. When a sauce is swimming in oil, a Nonna would take 1 ice cube, drop it in, or run it across the surface in a ladle for a few seconds, and the fat, which hardens the instant it hits cold, clings to the cube in a pale film. Then she'd lift it, straight out with a spoon, taking the grease with it. In seconds, a heavy, oily pot turns clean and glossy. It looks impossible. It works every single time, because fat turns solid the instant it touches something cold. If you'd rather not thin the pot at all, chill a metal spoon in the freezer and drag the back of it across the surface instead. The grease grabs onto the cold metal just the same. Try it once, and you'll never look at a greasy sauce the same way again. So there they are, 31 clever tricks the Italian grandmothers carried in their hands and never wrote down. And when you lay them all out like this, you start to see what they really were. This was a woman who fed a whole family beautifully on almost nothing, not with money, but with knowledge. She knew how to pull flavor from a rind, a heel of bread, a stubborn tomato. She knew patience was an ingredient, that nothing had to be wasted and nothing had to be expensive to be good, and that the way to season anything was to taste it, again and again with love. That knowledge used to pass down a kitchen from one pair of hands to the next, quietly, without a single word written down, and somewhere between the supermarkets and the shortcuts, so many of us stopped passing it on. So let me leave you with this. If your Nonna, or someone's Nonna, taught you even one trick like these, what was it, and are you still using it? Tell me down below, and let's keep this wisdom from disappearing. Subscribe, and cook along with us as we bring back the tricks the world was starting to forget.